Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? And this is another video that seemed pretty interesting to me, so I'm reacting to it. So let's dive right into it. She's going to talk about slavery, everybody's favorite hot button issue. So let's hear it.
The first point is that everyone had slaves, okay? People of all colors became slaves for economic reasons, because of war, because slavery, as odious as it was simply a normal way of life. Arabs were extracting millions of black African slaves centuries before Christian nations did, for about 13 centuries, compared to the 3 centuries European nations ran the Atlantic slave trade. Arabs marched African slaves across the Sahara Desert, and as such, they died more often. It was customary to castrate them, and many died from this practice. The Arabs...
Yo, Arabs
also enslaved over 1 million white European Christians. The term slavery, in fact, comes from the word Slav. The Slavs inhabited Eastern Europe and were taken by the Muslims of Spain in the 9th century. Not to mention that Africans had been enslaving each other for thousands of years. The point is that slavery, the second point is that slavery was not about race, and that's important. It was not about race. The only reason we think it's about race is because philosophers like David Hume in the 18th century ranked human beings and put Africans at the bottom, saying that they had no souls. The Enlightenment imposed the concept of race on a practice that had been going on for centuries in order to justify that practice. And why did they have to justify it? And this is the point. Because people in the West began to question slavery's moral validity. The fact is that people of all colors owned slaves, both as part of the Atlantic slave trade and outside of it. In the United States and Caribbean, black people owned thousands of black slaves, and so did the Native Americans. Nearly 20,000 of the Native American 5 civilized tribes sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War, fighting...
Oh, damn. Yo, liberals not going to like that one. That's crazy. I did not know that. I feel like I did know that, actually. Native Americans own slaves.
To keep slavery...
I didn't know that 5 tribes sided with the Confederacy. That I didn't know.
Alive. 28% of the black population who were free in New Orleans pledged their support to the Confederacy. All of the 13 southern states of the Confederacy had substantial numbers of black slave owners. There were more than 250,000 free blacks, and nearly 4,000 of them were slave masters who owned more than 20,000 slaves. The practice of slavery was legal, after all. We need to remember that governments did not own slaves. Slave owners did. In fact, the US government fought a war to end slavery. How much should the descendants of the 400,000 Union soldiers who lost their lives fighting to free the slaves pay to the descendants of the slaves they freed? Giving people lump sums of money does not work. Economists often point to the Georgia Land Lottery of 1832, in which parcels of land were distributed randomly. What happened to the descendants of those who were lucky enough to be given this land? Are they the richest families in Georgia? No. In fact, within one generation after the distribution of the Georgia land, one could not distinguish between those who had been given land and those who hadn't. Certainly my own direct experiences of working for 20 plus years in the inner city with families on welfare demonstrates this time and time again. Rather than give a man a fish, it is always better to teach him how to fish. All giving the fish does is make the giver feel better. Reparations might relieve white people of their guilt, but it will do little else. So back to my initial question. Why are we only discussing whether the West should pay reparations for slavery? Because while slavery was common to all civilizations, only one civilization developed a moral revulsion against it, very late in its history: Western civilization. Not even the leading moralists in other civilizations rejected slavery at all. Rather than be ashamed as Westerners, we should stand proud for having led the world out of a mentality where slavery was the norm, and we should vote against this move.
Wait.
Reparations might relieve white people of their guilt, but it will do little else. So back to my initial question. Why are we only discussing whether the West should pay reparations for slavery? Because while slavery was common to all civilizations, only one civilization developed a moral revulsion against it, very late in its history: Western civilization.
Interesting. I never even considered it that way. So let me break down what I got from this. One thing I knew right off the bat is I knew that like slavery existed in on so many different areas. So I was always one of those people that says like it's not just black people that had slaves, of course, right? Or that had to deal with slavery. A lot of different groups had to deal with slavery. Now that doesn't take away from the people who want to kind of remember what slavery has done to them as people. That doesn't take that away at all, to be honest. But I do think that if someone were able to, or if someone were to raise a similar type of talking point in the sense that my people also dealt with slavery, i.e. Christians, i.e. Jewish, i.e. Arabs, etc., I think that is very valid, and someone can't discount what they're saying at all, right? So that's the first point. Something that is obvious but makes sense, especially since we live in America. Another point that was very interesting is I'm going to address our final point right off the rip is that the idea that the West, and I don't even know this for a fact, so she's kind of alluding to the fact that the West, despite slavery being very, very much popular across the world, the West was the one who kickstarted the end of slavery. That's a very interesting point, and not something that I feel like gets talked about a lot. I don't know if that is true, but I feel like it is true because in some places slavery still exists. So I feel like that is true. I wish I could see the full debate. I probably will look it up on my own time to see the full debate that's probably going on. But that is a good point, and we should praise the fact that despite something that was a common practice, we as a institution, is that the best phrasing? We as a collective has, well, some people of the West has decided that the slavery is morally reprehensible and kickstarted its fall. So I think we should praise the people who wanted to end slavery. I think a lot of the times, what we try to do is say that Abe Lincoln didn't want to end slavery. I hear this talking point a lot. Lincoln didn't want to end slavery. He only did this because he wanted to, um, stop the country from dividing, right? Which could be a fair point, but at the very least, there needs to be understanding that there are people, even if not Abe Lincoln specifically, that did want to end slavery. There are people who morally thought it was reprehensible. So I think that is something that is very important to consider. That was a very interesting point. Another interesting point was, I mean, the kind of the theme of the conversation, or you know um the speech, is reparations. And I personally never believed in reparations. I still don't believe in reparations. I don't think it will help any of people at the end of the day. And I completely agree with the aspect of teaching them how to fish, right? Just giving them resources won't do anything. I guarantee it won't do anything. But creating a better avenue for them to succeed, 100% I'm with. So very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Let me know what y'all thought. Of course, like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed. You have a good one. Take care and peace.